I was staring at the pregnancy test in my daughter's trembling hands when my whole world shifted. The little pink lines blurred through my tears. Not because I was angry, but because I'd been so blind. Valeria was 16, and I'd missed every sign. "Mom, she started, but the words caught in her throat like broken glass. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask how this happened, when, why she didn't tell me. But looking at her face, pale, hollow, terrified, I realized the question wasn't how I'd missed the pregnancy. It was how I'd missed my daughter disappearing right in front of me. See, I thought I was doing everything right, working double shifts as a seamstress, saving every penny for her college fund, making sure she had everything I never did. But somewhere between the fabric orders and the bills, I'd stopped seeing her, really seeing her. And the father? Diego. A 17-year-old boy who'd vanished the moment Valeria told him, or so I thought. If this story already has you hooked, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. This channel is brand new, and we're bringing you real stories like this every single day. Stories that remind us that life is never as simple as it seems. Because what I didn't know yet was that everything I believed about that boy, about my daughter, about myself, it was all about to shatter into pieces I'd have to learn to put back together. I'm Marta, 42 years old, hands permanently stained with fabric dye, back always aching from hunching over my sewing machine. My husband left when Valeria was 3, and I promised myself she'd have better. She'd finish school, go to college, have choices I never had. The apartment we lived in was small, 2 bedrooms in a building where the elevator hadn't worked in 5 years, but it was clean. I made sure of that. The curtains I'd sewn myself caught the morning light just right, making everything look softer than it really was. On good days, when the sun hit the living room at the right angle, you could almost forget about the water stain on the ceiling or the way the floorboards creaked under the worn carpet. Valeria used to help me with the sewing. She'd sit on the floor, organizing buttons by color, humming while I worked. She had this laugh, bright and sudden, like a bird taking flight. But over the past 8 months, that laugh had disappeared. In its place was silence, heavy, thick silence that filled the apartment like smoke. I'd noticed things, of course. The baggy clothes, the way she'd skip breakfast, claiming her stomach hurt, how she'd rush to the bathroom at odd hours, and I'd hear her retching behind the closed door, the way she avoided my eyes when I asked if everything was okay. But I was so tired, always tired, and I convinced myself it was normal teenage stuff. Hormones, stress from school, maybe boy trouble, I thought, never imagining how close to the truth I was. "She's just being dramatic," my sister Rosa had said when I mentioned Valeria's mood swings. Remember how we were at that age? Everything felt like the end of the world. I wanted to believe it. God, I wanted to believe it. Because believing meant I didn't have to look closer, didn't have to face what I might find if I actually paid attention instead of just existing in the same space as my daughter. Diego had seemed like a nice boy, polite. He'd come to pick Valeria up for school sometimes, always saying, "Good morning, Mrs. Castillo," with a shy smile, clean-cut, respectful, the kind of boy mothers want their daughters to date. His family lived 3 blocks away. His mother ran a small convenience store on the corner. I'd see her sometimes, a tired woman with hard eyes and a mouth that rarely smiled, the kind of face that had seen too much and trusted too little. But I didn't really know them. I didn't really know much about Valeria's life anymore, if I'm being honest. When did that happen? When did my daughter become a stranger living under my roof? When did I stop asking the real questions and start accepting the easy answers? I remember the last normal day we had. It was a Tuesday, I think. I'd made her favorite breakfast, scrambled eggs with cheese, toast with butter melting into the bread. She'd picked at it, pushing the food around her plate. "Not hungry?" I'd asked. "Stomach ache." "Again? Maybe we should take you to the doctor." "It's fine, Mom. Just stress. I have a big test today." And I believed her, because it was easier than pushing, easier than being late to Mrs. Mendoza's fitting appointment, easier than everything. The night everything fell apart started ordinary. I was finishing an order, a wedding dress for a client downtown, all satin and lace and dreams. The kind of dress I'd once imagined wearing myself, back when I still believed in fairy tales. The radio played softly, some old bolero my mother used to love. Outside, dogs barked in the distance, and somewhere a car alarm chirped twice before falling silent. The fabric felt smooth under my fingers, cool and expensive. I was hand-stitching tiny pearls along the neckline, work that couldn't be rushed. Each stitch had to be perfect. That's what I told myself. That's why I didn't get up immediately when Valeria called. "Mom?" Her voice came from her bedroom. Weak. Strange. "Just a minute, mi amor. I need to finish this seam." "Mom?" More urgent now. Scared in a way I'd never heard before. I dropped the fabric and ran. She was on the floor. That's what I remember most clearly. My daughter, crumpled on the floor next to her bed, her face twisted in pain, her jeans dark with blood. So much blood. The carpet beneath her was soaked with it, spreading in a dark stain that seemed to grow even as I watched. What happened? "Valeria? What?" The words died when I saw it. The small, perfect crying thing wrapped in a torn bedsheet. A baby. My grandson. No, my granddaughter, I'd learn later. But in that moment, all I could process was blood and crying, and my daughter's lips moving. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." The umbilical cord. She'd tried to cut it herself with kitchen scissors. The ones I used for fabric, I realized with horror. The bleeding wouldn't stop. It pulsed from between her legs in waves, and her face was the color of old newspaper. I screamed for our neighbor, Mrs. Silva, who called the ambulance while I pressed towels against Valeria's thigh, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold pressure. The towels turned red immediately, soaked through in seconds. The baby kept crying, this thin, angry wail that sounded like an accusation, like she was asking why no one had protected her mother, why no one had seen this coming. "Why didn't you tell me?" I whispered. But Valeria had already passed out, her head lolling to the side, lips pale. The ambulance lights painted our street red and blue. I remember neighbors coming out, watching, whispering. Mrs. Rivera from downstairs with her hand over her mouth, the Martinez family clustering in their doorway. Everyone seeing, everyone knowing. I remember climbing into the ambulance, holding Valeria's cold hand while a paramedic worked to stabilize her. Her pulse was weak, he said. She'd lost a lot of blood. Too much. The baby, they'd wrapped her properly now, handed her to another medic who cooed softly while checking her vitals. She was small, so small, with this angry red face and tiny fists that punched at the air. "Is she going to die?" I asked. "Please, is my daughter going to die?" "We're doing everything we can." It's what they always say. The phrase that means nothing and everything at once. At the hospital, they separated us. Valeria went to emergency surgery. She'd torn something trying to deliver alone, they said. Internal bleeding. Hemorrhaging. The words floated around me like birds I couldn't catch. They gave me papers to sign. Forms that I couldn't read through my tears. My hands leaving smudges of dried blood on the white pages. A nurse took the baby to NICU. "She's small, but stable," the nurse said, her voice gentle. 4 pounds, 8 ounces. Premature, but her vitals are good. Lucky, really. Very lucky considering. Lucky. The word felt like a knife twisting in my chest. I sat in the waiting room for hours. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, that eternal hospital sound that makes time feel meaningless. Someone's phone kept ringing. The same cheerful jingle over and over until I wanted to scream. A janitor mopped the same spot over and over. The smell of disinfectant mixing with coffee and fear, and the particular smell of hospitals that I'd always hated. A clock on the wall ticked forward. Midnight. 1 a.m. 2 a.m. Each minute an eternity. A social worker came. Young woman. Kind eyes. Notebook in hand. She sat beside me in those uncomfortable plastic chairs and started asking questions I didn't know how to answer. When did I last see my daughter? Did I know she was pregnant? Why didn't she seek prenatal care? Where was the father? Did I have support systems? Was there abuse in the home? I don't know, I said to everything. I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. The words sounded hollow. Pathetic. What kind of mother says I don't know? They made it sound like I'd failed. And I had, hadn't I? What kind of mother doesn't notice her daughter is 9 months pregnant? What kind of mother misses every sign, every symptom, every cry for help that wasn't spoken but should have been heard anyway? I thought about all the times I'd seen her in baggy sweatshirts and thought nothing of it. The times she'd complained about feeling sick and I'd handed her Tums and gone back to sewing. The afternoon she'd asked me, in a small voice, "Mom, if someone made a really big mistake, would you still love them?" And I'd answered, "Of course, mi amor," without ever asking what the mistake was. The surgeon came out at 2 a.m, still in his scrubs, mask pulled down, exhaustion written in the lines around his eyes. "She's stable. We had to give her a transfusion. 2 units. She'd lost more than 40% of her blood volume. There was a significant tear in the vaginal wall and some internal bleeding we had to repair, but she's going to be okay, physically at least. And mentally," he looked away, "that's not my department, but the social worker will be in touch. There are resources, therapy, support groups. They let me see her at dawn. The sun was just starting to paint the sky pink through the hospital windows, that soft early light that makes everything look fragile. She was so small in that hospital bed, tubes in her arms, monitors beeping steadily beside her. Her eyes were open, staring at the ceiling tiles, not blinking, not crying, just staring. "Valeria?" She turned to me slowly, like her head weighed 1,000 pounds. "Is the baby dead?" "No, she's alive. They're taking care of her in the NICU." "Good." A tear slid down her cheek, tracing a path through the dried blood still smudged near her hairline. "She can have a better life now. Better than with me." "What are you talking about?" Diego and I agreed. "We're giving her up for adoption. We already arranged it. There's a couple. They're going to take her." The words hit me like a physical blow. You planned this? You were going to give away my grandchild and not tell me. I couldn't disappoint you." Her voice cracked, and suddenly she was crying, really crying, her whole body shaking with sobs that tore through her chest. "You worked so hard for me, all those extra shifts, skipping meals so I could have new school supplies, the plans for college, the future you wanted me to have. How could I tell you I ruined everything? Ruined." I couldn't breathe. The air in the room felt too thick, too heavy. "Valeria, you didn't ruin anything. You should have told me. I would have helped." "We could have what? Kept the baby? With what money, Mom? In what space? We barely have room for the 2 of us. You barely sleep now. You're always working, always tired, always worried about money. How were we supposed to add a baby to that? How was I supposed to ask you to sacrifice even more?" She was right, and that's what hurt most. She was absolutely right. Our apartment was too small. My income was too small. Everything about our life was too small to fit another person, especially one as demanding as a newborn. But she should have told me anyway. We should have figured it out together. "Where is Diego?" I asked finally. "Does he know you almost died?" "He doesn't care." Her voice was flat, dead. "His mom said the baby isn't our problem anymore. She's handling the adoption. She said it was better this way. Clean. Simple." Something cold settled in my chest. "What do you mean she's handling it?" "She found a couple. They're going to pay for everything. The hospital bills, everything. She said they're rich, that the baby will have a good life, private schools, a big house, everything we can't give her. Pay." The word rang wrong in my ears, like a bell that's cracked. A nurse came in to check Valeria's vitals, recorded numbers on a chart, adjusted the IV drip. "You should get some rest," she told me. "She needs to sleep. Her body's been through a trauma." I stepped into the hallway, my mind spinning. Diego's mother was arranging an adoption, paying for things. Something felt deeply, fundamentally wrong. In all my years, I'd never heard of an adoption where the adoptive parents paid the birth family directly. Lawyers, yes. Agencies, yes. But this? I found a payphone down the hall. Called my sister Rosa with shaking fingers. "I need you to do something for me." Rosa worked as a clerk at the municipal office. She had access to records, connections, knew how things worked in the maze of bureaucracy. She knew which palms to grease, which doors to knock on, which questions to ask to get real answers. Within 2 hours, she called me back. I was sitting in the cafeteria, staring at a cup of coffee I couldn't drink, when the payphone rang. "Marta, you need to sit down. Just tell me. Diego's mother isn't arranging an adoption. She's selling the baby." Rosa's voice was tight with anger. "There's a couple. They've paid her $12,000 already, with another $8,000 promised on delivery. It's illegal as hell, but it happens. I made some calls. She's done this before." The cafeteria tilted. Someone's tray clattered. A child laughed somewhere. The world kept spinning while mine stopped. What? 2 years ago, her niece got pregnant. 15 years old. The baby disappeared. And suddenly the family had money for a new car, new furniture. No one asked questions because no one wanted to know the answers. The girl said it was a private adoption. Everyone accepted it. Where's Diego in all this? I don't know. But Marta, you need to go to the police. Now. Before she moves that baby. Before she gets the rest of the money and disappears. These things, they work fast once the money changes hands. I ran. Actually ran through the hospital corridors. My shoes squeaking on the polished floors. People jumping out of my way. I must have looked insane. Wild-eyed. Still wearing yesterday's clothes stained with my daughter's blood. Hair falling out of its bun. I found the NICU. Showed my ID to the security guard. Demanded to see my granddaughter. The nurses hesitated. Made calls. Finally led me to an incubator in the far corner. She was so tiny. Purple-pink skin. Eyes squeezed shut. Little fists curled tight. Tubes and wires connected her to machines that beeped and hummed. She had Valeria's nose. My mother's chin. And when I pressed my hand against the warm plastic of the incubator, her tiny fingers uncurled as if reaching for me. Has anyone else tried to see her? I asked the nurse on duty. Diego Morales' mother came this morning, she said, checking a chart. Around 7. We didn't let her take the baby. She's not on the approved list, and we need proper documentation for discharge anyway. But she was very insistent. Said she had legal guardianship papers coming. She seemed angry when we asked her to leave. She doesn't have guardianship. She's trying to sell this baby. I'm calling the police right now. The nurse's eyes widened. I'll get security and the hospital administrator. If what you're saying is true, it's true. God help me, it's true. The police came within the hour. 2 officers. One older with gray at his temples. One younger with a notebook and serious eyes. I explained everything. The illegal adoption, the money, Diego's mother's history, my sister's investigation. They took it seriously, thank God. Started an investigation immediately. Made calls. Took statements. Put a hold on the baby's discharge pending the investigation. We see this more than you'd think, the older officer said. Babies are commodities to some people, especially healthy newborns. There's always someone desperate enough to pay. But here's what I didn't know. Diego didn't know. I learned this when he showed up at the hospital that evening, just as the sun was setting and painting the sky orange through the windows. He looked terrible, eyes red and swollen, hands shaking, a fresh bruise darkening his left cheek, lips split and crusted with blood. Where's my daughter? He demanded at the nurse's station, voice cracking. Where's the baby? Please, I need to see them. Security moved toward him, but I stepped forward. You have some nerve showing up here. He turned to me, and I saw it then. Genuine confusion mixed with desperation. Mrs. Castillo, I just found out Valeria was in the hospital. I've been looking for her for 2 days. My mom locked me in my room, took my phone, told everyone I was sick. I only got out because my uncle came over to drop something off and heard me banging on the window and he stopped, really seeing me for the first time. What happened? Is Valeria okay? The baby? Please just tell me they're alive. Your mother tried to sell our granddaughter. The color drained from his face. He actually swayed on his feet, caught himself against the desk. What? The adoption, the couple, the money, $20,000. She was selling her, Diego. Selling your daughter like she was a used car. He looked like he might throw up. A police officer approached, started asking questions. Diego sank into a chair, head in his hands, and I could see his shoulders shaking. I didn't know, he whispered. I swear to God, I didn't know. She told me she found a good family through an agency, that the baby would have a better life with them, that they were good people who couldn't have kids of their own. His voice broke. I was scared. I'm 17. I don't have money or a job or anything to offer. I thought giving her up was the right thing, the responsible thing. But you were going to just disappear? The anger in my voice surprised me. Hot and sharp. Leave my daughter to deal with everything alone? To give birth alone in her bedroom and almost die? No. He looked up, and I saw tears streaming down his face, dripping off his jaw. No. I mean, at first, yeah. When she first told me, I panicked. I said stupid things, cruel things. I told her it wasn't my problem, but then I couldn't stop thinking about it, about her, about the baby, about what kind of man I was becoming. He wiped his face with his sleeve. leaving a smear of blood from his split lip. I realized I was being a coward, that running was the easy thing, but not the right thing. So I told my mom I changed my mind, that I wanted to help Valeria, that I wanted to try to be a father, even if I didn't know how, and that's when everything went crazy. What do you mean? She freaked out. Started screaming about how I was ruining everything, how the couple had already paid, how we'd signed papers. I said I didn't sign anything, and she said she forged my signature. When I said I was going to tell Valeria, going to stop the adoption, she locked me in my room, literally nailed the door shut from outside, took my phone. My uncle had to break the door down to get me out. A police officer was taking notes, recording everything. Another was on the phone, probably checking Diego's story. The baby's in NICU, I said finally, not sure if I believed him but needing him to know. She's small but healthy, 4 pounds, 8 ounces, and Valeria almost died trying to give birth alone in her bedroom because she was too scared to tell me the truth, too scared to disappoint me, too scared to ask for help. Can I see her? Valeria, I mean. Please. I need to tell her I'm sorry. I need to. He stood up, swayed again, and I realized he probably hadn't eaten in days. Mrs. Castillo, I know you hate me. You should hate me. I hate me, but I want to make this right. I don't know how, but I want to try. I want to be there, for both of them. I should have sent him away, should have told him to leave my daughter alone, that he'd done enough damage. But something in his voice, in his face, the bruise, the split lip, the desperation in his eyes. I believed him. Maybe I was a fool. Maybe I was just tired of all the anger. Come on, I said. Valeria was awake when we walked in. She'd been moved to a regular room, the monitor still beeping but less urgent now. She saw Diego and her expression crumbled. Shock, pain, hope, fear all mixing together. You came, she whispered. I'm sorry. Diego moved to her bedside slowly, like approaching something fragile that might shatter. I'm so sorry, Val. For everything. For running. For being a coward. For letting my mom manipulate everything. For not being there when you needed me. Your mom tried to sell the baby. I know. The police told me. He was crying now. Ugly crying. The kind that's impossible to fake. Impossible to stop. I didn't know about the money. I swear on my life. She told me it was a real adoption through an agency. That the couple was good. I'm so stupid. So fucking stupid for believing her. For not asking questions. Diego, no. Let me say this. Please. He knelt beside the bed, and I saw his hands were shaking so badly he had to grip the bed rail to steady himself. I want to be a father. I don't know how. I'm terrified. I don't know anything about babies or what to do. But I want to try. If you'll let me. If you don't hate me too much. If there's any chance you can forgive me. Valeria looked at me. I looked at Diego. This boy who'd run, who'd hidden, who'd let his mother manipulate him into abandoning his responsibility, but who'd also fought his way out of a locked room to get here. Who was kneeling with tears on his face and a split lip, asking for a chance he probably didn't deserve. But then again, who among us gets what we deserve? And who among us doesn't need a second chance? It won't be easy, I said slowly. Any of this. Raising a baby, finishing school, building a life. I know. You'll need to finish school, get a job, actually show up every single day even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. I will. I promise. And if you hurt my daughter again, if you run again, if you disappear or make excuses or put your fear ahead of her needs, I will personally make sure you regret it for the rest of your life. Yes, ma'am. I understand. Valeria reached for his hand. He took it like it was made of glass, like it might break at any moment. They looked at each other, these two kids who'd made a baby and almost lost everything. We'll need help, she said softly. I can't do this alone. Neither can you. We'll figure it out, I heard myself say. Together. All of us. Somehow. It wasn't a happy ending. Not yet. Not even close. There was still so much to deal with. Diego's mother's arrest, the illegal adoption investigation, the couple who'd paid the money, the hospital bills that were piling up, the question of where we'd all go from here, how we'd make any of this work. But it was a beginning. A tiny, fragile beginning. And sometimes, that's all you get. That's all you need. The next few weeks were chaos. Beautiful, terrifying, exhausting chaos that left me wondering some days if I'd survive it. Diego's mother was arrested on charges of human trafficking and attempted sale of a minor. The investigation uncovered she'd done this twice before, once with her niece, once with a cousin. Both times, babies had disappeared into private adoptions that no one questioned because no one wanted to see the truth. The police found bank records, emails, text messages. She'd been running a side business for years, preying on desperate pregnant girls, and even more desperate couples who couldn't adopt through legitimate channels. The couple who'd paid the first installment turned out to be in their 40s, childless after years of trying and failed fertility treatments. They'd gone through a shady adoption agency that promised quick placements, no questions asked. They lost their money and faced legal consequences too, though less severe since they claimed ignorance of the illegal nature of the transaction. I felt bad for them, in a way. Desperation makes people do terrible things, makes them see what they want to see instead of what's really there. Diego moved in with his uncle Miguel after his father, finally understanding what had happened, kicked his wife out, and told Diego he was ashamed of the whole family. Miguel lived in a small house on the edge of town, 2 bedrooms, a yard with a lemon tree, quiet and peaceful in a way our neighborhood never was. Diego got a job at a grocery store, night shift stocking shelves, minimum wage but honest work. He'd finish his shift at 6 a.m, come straight to the hospital to see Valeria and the baby, then drag himself to school for 8 a.m. He was exhausted all the time, falling asleep in class, barely keeping his eyes open. But he showed up. Every single day. Valeria recovered slowly. The physical wounds healed, stitches dissolved, blood counts normalized, strength gradually returned. But the emotional ones ran deeper, jagged and raw. She cried a lot those first weeks. Gut-wrenching sobs that shook her entire body, guilt over hiding the pregnancy, shame over what happened, fear about the future, relief that the baby was alive, grief for the life she'd imagined and lost. Everything poured out in waves that left her exhausted and hollow. A therapist from the hospital came to talk to her, to all of us actually. A soft-spoken woman named Dr. Reyes who didn't judge, didn't lecture, just listened and asked questions that made us think. "You did your best with what you knew," she told me during one session. "Parents aren't mind readers. You can't see what's hidden, but you can learn to listen differently now, to look closer, to create space for truth instead of assumptions. Learning to listen differently." That became my mantra, the phrase I repeated to myself when frustration threatened to overwhelm me. The baby. We needed to name her. That discussion took days. Diego wanted something traditional. Valeria wanted something that meant hope. I just wanted her to have a name that felt like love. We settled on Luz, light, because she'd brought light into our darkest moment, shown us truths we needed to see, illuminated the path forward when everything felt pitch black. Luz stayed in NICU for 12 days. 12 days of watching her through plastic, monitoring her vitals, willing her to grow stronger. I visited every day, sometimes twice. Held her when the nurses allowed it, skin to skin, feeling her tiny heartbeat against my chest. Sang to her the same songs I'd sung to Valeria when she was a baby, old lullabies my mother had taught me in Spanish, words worn smooth with generations of love. Diego came too, still awkward at first, scared to touch her. "She's so small," he whispered the first time they let him hold her. "What if I break her?" "You won't," I said. "Just support her head. That's it. You're doing fine." By the end of the first week, he was changing diapers and handling bottles like he'd been born to do it. Something primal awakened in him, some instinct that transcended his fear. He'd stare at her while she slept in his arms, this look of wonder and terror mixing on his face. Valeria couldn't visit much at first. She was too weak, could barely walk to the bathroom without help. But we brought her photos, videos on Rosa's phone, and when she was finally strong enough to go to the NICU, when the nurse placed Luz in her arms for the first time, I watched my daughter's face transform. "She's so small," Valeria whispered, the same words Diego had used. Tears streamed down her face, dripping onto Luz's hospital blanket. "I almost gave her away. I almost let her go. But you didn't," Diego said, standing beside her, one hand on her shoulder. "She's here. We're here. We're all here together. We can't afford this," Valeria said. Always practical, always worried, the weight of reality crushing her moment of joy. The hospital bills alone. And then diapers, formula, clothes, everything. How are we going to? We'll figure it out. I surprised myself with how much I believed it, how much I needed to believe it. 1 day at a time, 1 hour at a time if we have to. My sister Rosa helped with donations, clothes from her church, where someone was always having babies or outgrowing things, diapers from a neighbor whose kids were grown, a used crib that had seen 3 babies through infancy, worn but solid, a car seat, baby bottles. The community rallied in ways I never expected. People I barely knew showing up with bags of supplies and quiet words of encouragement. The hospital social worker, Maria, connected us with programs I didn't even know existed. WIC for formula and food, healthcare assistance for Luz, a program for young mothers that provided counseling and support groups, resources hidden in the bureaucracy, waiting for someone who knew how to find them. You're not alone in this, Maria told us during one of her visits. It feels like you are, but you're not. There's help if you know where to look. Diego's uncle Miguel turned out to be a blessing we didn't deserve. A quiet man in his 50s who'd never married, never had kids, worked as a mechanic and lived simply. He welcomed Diego into his home and by extension welcomed us too. Fixed up a small room where Diego could sleep, where eventually Luz could stay on weekends. Bought a car seat and installed it in his truck. Baby-proofed the electrical outlets. Installed a changing table in the bathroom. Family takes care of family, he said simply, when I tried to thank him. Tried to explain we couldn't pay him back. That's all there is to it. You do what needs doing. We brought Luz home on a Thursday afternoon. The sun was shining, birds singing like they didn't know our world had been turned upside down. Our tiny apartment had never felt smaller or fuller. Valeria's bedroom became a nursery at night. Crib wedged between her bed and the wall, changing table that doubled as a dresser, everything carefully arranged in the tiny space. During the day, Luz's things scattered everywhere. Bottles drying in the kitchen, diapers stacked in the bathroom, tiny socks appearing in the strangest places, between couch cushions, in the laundry basket, once somehow in the refrigerator. It was cramped and chaotic, and nothing like I'd planned for our lives. It was perfect in its imperfection. Real in a way my dreams had never been. Valeria and Diego settled into a routine born of necessity. She'd stay home with Luz during the day, trying to catch up on homework during naps, texting her teachers for assignments. Diego worked nights at the grocery store, came by in the mornings before school to see Luz, help with feeding, change diapers, just hold her while she slept. Weekends, he'd take her to Miguel's place, giving Valeria time to study or sleep, or just breathe. They weren't together exactly, not boyfriend and girlfriend in the traditional sense, but they were partners, co-parents, learning to trust each other again after betrayal, learning to build something new from the wreckage of what could have been. Do you think you'll get back together? I asked Valeria one night while we folded laundry, Luz sleeping in her crib, the TV murmuring softly in the background. She was quiet for a long moment, folding a tiny onesie with careful precision. I don't know. Maybe. But right now, I just need to know he's not going to run, that when things get hard, he won't disappear. And I think he needs to prove to himself that he won't, that he's stronger than his fear, wise beyond her years. My daughter. When had that happened? When had she grown up? The months passed in a blur of sleepless nights and small miracles. Luz grew stronger, gained weight, her cries becoming more insistent, and her grip on our fingers getting tighter. She had Diego's dimples, and Valeria's dark eyes, and my mother's stubborn chin. A mix of all of us, carrying forward generations of strength and struggle. Valeria returned to school 3 months after giving birth, a special program for young mothers that included on-site childcare. She'd drop Luz off in the morning, attend classes, nurse during lunch break, then pick her up in the afternoon. Her grades, surprisingly, actually improved. I can't afford to waste time anymore, she explained. Every minute matters now. Diego kept working, kept studying, his grades actually improving because, as he told me once over coffee at 3 a.m. when we were both up with a crying Luz, I can't afford to fail anymore. Too many people counting on me. Every test, every shift, every decision, it all matters now in a way it never did before. He looked exhausted as he said it, dark circles under his eyes, but there was something different in his face. Purpose. The kind that comes not from success, but from knowing you're needed. My sewing business changed too. I stopped taking so many rush orders, the ones that paid well but kept me up until 4 a.m. Started saying no to last-minute deadlines that would have meant missing Luce's bedtime or Valeria's school presentations. Because being home when Valeria needed me, when Luce cried at 3 a.m., when Diego showed up exhausted and needed coffee and a kind word, that mattered more than any extra money. We were poor. Let's be clear about that. There were nights we ate rice and beans and eggs because that's what we could afford. Times when the electricity bill came due and we had to juggle things, deciding which could wait another week. Moments of pure panic when Luce got a fever and we rushed to the emergency room, then sat in the waiting area for 5 hours because we didn't have insurance that covered everything. When the car broke down, and I had to choose between fixing it or buying formula. But we were together, and that made us rich in ways I'd never understood before. There was this night, about 4 months after Luce came home, when everything seemed to hit at once. The washing machine broke, flooding the bathroom. Valeria had a huge test the next day she hadn't studied for because Luce had been colicky all week. Diego called in sick to work. Actually sick, with a fever and cough he couldn't shake. And I'd just gotten word that my biggest client was moving to another seamstress because I'd turned down too many rush jobs. I sat on the bathroom floor, watching water seep across the tiles, and I just started laughing. Not happy laughter. The kind that comes when you're so overwhelmed you don't know what else to do. Valeria found me there. "Mom, are you okay? The washer's dead. You have a test. Diego's sick. I lost Mrs. Chen's account, and we have exactly $43 until Friday." She sat down next to me, her shoulder against mine. "So what do we do?" "I have no idea." We sat there in silence for a minute. Then Luce started crying from the bedroom, that particular wail that meant she was hungry and wouldn't be patient about it. "I'll get her," Valeria said, standing up. "You call that repair guy Rosa recommended. And Mom, we've survived worse. We'll survive this too." She was right. We always did. Diego's trial against his mother happened 6 months after Luce was born. The courtroom was cold, sterile, smelling of old wood and anxiety. Valeria and I sat in the gallery, Luz sleeping in my arms, while Diego testified. He had to face his mother across that courtroom, had to speak into a microphone about how she'd locked him in his room, forged his signature, tried to sell his daughter. His mother didn't look at him, just stared straight ahead, her face hard as stone. No remorse, no apology, nothing. She got 8 years. Human trafficking, fraud, child endangerment. The judge's voice was cold as he read the sentence. "You exploited vulnerable young people for profit. You treated human life as a commodity. This court finds your actions reprehensible and deserving of the maximum sentence." Diego cried as they led her away. Even after everything, she was still his mother. "I thought I'd feel relief," he told me afterward, as we sat on a bench outside the courthouse. "Or anger. But I just feel sad, like I lost her a long time ago, and I'm only now realizing she's really gone." "That's grief," I said. "Even when someone hurts us, we can grieve the loss of who we wish they'd been." "Did you grieve Valeria's father?" The question surprised me. Yes, not the man he actually was, but the man I'd imagined him to be, the father I wanted for my daughter. That loss was real, even if he never actually existed. Diego nodded slowly. "My mom used to be different. When I was little, she'd sing to me, make me breakfast. Then my dad started drinking and she got harder, colder, like she had to turn off something inside herself just to survive." Hurt people," I said. "But that doesn't excuse what she did. Understanding isn't the same as forgiving. Am I a bad person if I never forgive her? No. You're human. Forgiveness isn't mandatory. Sometimes the best we can do is accept what happened and try not to let it poison our future." He was quiet for a long time. Then, "I don't want to be like her. I don't want Luce to ever be afraid of me or feel like she has to hide from me." "Then don't be like her. Every day, make different choices. That's all any of us can do." One evening, about 8 months after everything fell apart and came back together, I was sewing a communion dress when Valeria came home from school with Luce. Diego was with them. His shift didn't start for another hour, so he'd picked them up in Miguel's truck. "Mom," Valeria said, setting down the diaper bag and unstrapping Luce from her carrier. "We need to talk to you about something." My heart clenched. Those words never preceded good news. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong." She glanced at Diego. He nodded encouragement, took Luce from her arms. "Actually, things are good. Really good. And we've been thinking. About the future." They sat down at the kitchen table. I put down my sewing, bracing myself. I'm going to graduate on time, Valeria said. My grades are good. Really good. Better than before, actually. And there's a program, a scholarship specifically for young mothers who want to go to community college. It covers tuition, books, even has a stipend for childcare. That's wonderful. Relief flooded through me. I applied. For early childhood education. I want to work with kids, Mom. Help other young parents. Be the kind of support I wish I'd had. Make sure other girls don't feel like they have to hide and suffer alone. Pride swelled in my chest. So strong it physically hurt. Valeria, that's amazing. You're going to be incredible at that. And I got accepted to a training program, Diego added, bouncing Luz gently against his shoulder. Electrician's apprenticeship. It's through the union. 4 years, but I'll be earning money the whole time. Real money. Good money, eventually. And when I'm done, I'll have a trade. Something stable. We're not asking you to raise Luz, Valeria said quickly, like she'd rehearsed this part. We know that's not fair. We know you've already sacrificed so much, but we wanted you to know we have a plan. We're not just floating anymore. We're building something. I looked at these 2 kids, because they were still kids, really, 18 and 17 now, and saw adults emerging, not fully formed, not without mistakes ahead, but trying, fighting, refusing to give up or take the easy way out. I'm so proud of you, I said, my voice breaking. Both of you. So incredibly proud. Diego shifted uncomfortably, the way he always did with compliments. I don't know if my dad would say the same. He still won't talk to me. Says I'm an embarrassment to the family. Then your dad's a fool, I said firmly. You made a mistake. A big one. But you owned it. You showed up. You're doing the work. Every single day to make it right. That takes more strength than most adults have. It doesn't feel strong, he admitted. Most days I feel like I'm barely holding it together. Like one more thing going wrong will break me. That's what strength actually looks like, I told him. It's not feeling confident and capable. It's showing up even when you're terrified. Especially when you're terrified. Luz made a gurgling sound from Diego's shoulder, then spit up a little on his shirt. He barely flinched, just grabbed a burp cloth and wiped it up like it was nothing. 8 months ago, he would have panicked. Now it was just another moment in a day full of them. She's lucky, Diego said softly, looking down at Luz. To have you, to have all of us, to have this family, even if it's weird and complicated. We're lucky to have her, I corrected. She saved us. In a way, she gave us all a reason to be better than we were. And I meant it. Every word. A year later, Valeria walked across the stage to receive her high school diploma. The ceremony was held in the school gymnasium, folding chairs arranged in rows, the air heavy with heat and hairspray, and the particular smell of too many bodies in one space. Luz sat in my lap, 16 months old now, babbling and clapping her tiny hands when she heard Valeria's name called. She didn't understand what was happening, just knew everyone was excited. Diego had to work. He'd tried to get the night off but couldn't, the grocery store understaffed as always. But he'd sent flowers to our apartment that morning. Big, beautiful roses with a card that read, "Proud of you. We did it." We, not I, we. That's what we'd become. A we, a unit. A family that looked nothing like what I'd imagined, but was more real than any fantasy. Rosa sat beside me, snapping photos with her phone, beaming like Valeria was her own daughter. Miguel was there too, in the back row, uncomfortable in a button-down shirt but smiling genuinely. Even some of Valeria's teachers came up afterward to congratulate her, tell her how impressed they were with her perseverance. Most girls in your situation drop out, her math teacher said. But you didn't just stay. You excelled. That's remarkable. After the ceremony, as we walked to the car under a sky full of stars, Valeria carried Luz while I carried her diploma, framed and ready to hang in our living room. "Mom," she said suddenly, stopping in the middle of the parking lot. "Thank you." "For what?" "For not giving up on me. For not being angry. For not making me feel like I ruined your life. For everything." I stopped walking, turned to face her. "Valeria, I should be thanking you." "For what? Getting pregnant at 16? Almost dying? Making everything harder? For teaching me how to see, how to listen? For showing me that love isn't about perfection or plans or doing everything right. It's about showing up. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. You taught me that. She started crying. I started crying. Luz, caught between us, grabbed both our noses and laughed, delighted by our tears like they were a game. We stood there in that parking lot, 3 generations of women who'd survived the worst, and were building something beautiful from the wreckage. The night air smelled like rain and possibility. Somewhere a car honked. Music drifted from a nearby restaurant, something upbeat and hopeful. Life kept moving, and we moved with it. Together. Diego showed up at our apartment an hour later, still in his work uniform, smelling like produce and exhaustion. He'd left his shift early, taken a bus across town, just to make the end of the celebration. Brought a cake from the grocery store bakery, slightly lopsided. Congratulations spelled wrong, but perfect in its imperfection. We ate cake at midnight, sitting around our tiny kitchen table, Luz smearing frosting in her hair and laughing while we tried to clean her up. It was messy and chaotic, and nothing about it was Instagram-worthy. It was everything. What happens now? Diego asked, licking frosting off his fork. Now I start college in the fall, Valeria said. And you keep working. And we keep going. That's it? Just keep going? That's everything, I said. Just keep going. One day, then another, then another. That's how you build a life. Miguel raised his coffee mug like it was champagne. To keeping going. We all raised our mugs, coffee, water, Luz's sippy cup of milk, and clinked them together, to keeping going. The next 2 years were a blur of small victories and setbacks. Valeria started college, balancing classes with motherhood in a dance that never got easier, just more familiar. Some days she'd come home crying because she'd failed a test or missed a deadline because Luz had been sick. Other days, she'd burst through the door beaming because she'd aced a presentation or her professor had praised her essay. Diego completed his first year of apprenticeship, then his second. The work was brutal. Long hours, physical labor, studying electrical codes at night after Luz went to bed. But he stuck with it. His paychecks grew, slowly but steadily. He moved out of Miguel's house and into a small apartment closer to us. Started paying child support without being asked. Just deposited money in Valeria's account every 2 weeks like clockwork. They started dating again. Officially. Carefully. Taking it slow. Going to movies when Miguel or I could watch Luz. Having actual conversations about their future instead of just reacting to whatever crisis came next. I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago, Diego told me once. We were sitting on my fire escape at 2 a.m, both unable to sleep, sharing a pot of coffee. Sometimes I don't even recognize that kid who wanted to run, who let his mom convince him abandoning his daughter was okay. Good, I said. You shouldn't recognize him. Growth means becoming someone new. Do you think Valeria will ever really forgive me? For those first months? I think she already has. But Diego, you need to forgive yourself too. You were 17 and terrified. You made the wrong choice. Then you made it right. That's more than most people do. He was quiet, staring out at the city lights. I want to marry her someday. Not now. We're too young, too unstable. But someday, when we're ready. When I can give her the life she deserves. Does she know? Not yet. I want to do it right. Finish my apprenticeship. Get stable. Make sure I'm someone worth choosing. You're already someone worth choosing, I told him. You just need to believe it yourself. Luz grew. That's what children do, of course. But it still surprised me every day. One morning she was babbling nonsense. The next she was stringing together sentences. Mama work. Dada fix. Lita sew. Her names for all of us. Her whole world contained in those simple words. She looked like both of them. Valeria's eyes and Diego's smile. My mother's stubborn chin and some ineffable quality that was entirely her own. Strong-willed, curious, affectionate in a way that broke your heart. The kind of child who climbed into your lap with a book and wouldn't leave until you'd read it 3 times. I watched Valeria and Diego parent her with a mixture of instinct and terror. They made mistakes, gave in too easily to tantrums, forgot to pack snacks, let her stay up too late because they were too tired to fight bedtime. But they also did 1,000 things right that they'd never know. The way Diego always knelt to Luz's level when talking to her. How Valeria sang to her every night. The same lullabies I'd sung. The patience they showed when she asked why for the 100th time. They were good parents. Not perfect, but present. And that made all the difference. My business grew in unexpected ways. Word spread about the seamstress who worked around childcare, who understood young mothers' schedules, who didn't judge. I started getting clients who specifically sought me out. Other single mothers, working women, young families, people who valued quality but also understood that life doesn't fit into neat 9-to-5 blocks. I hired help. Just part-time. Just a teenager from the building who wanted to learn sewing. But it meant I could take on more work without sacrificing family time. Could say yes to opportunities without saying no to Luce's first steps or Valeria's school plays. Rosa got Luce into a good preschool program, subsidized with sliding scale fees, focused on children from struggling families. 3 mornings a week, Luce would go to school with a lunchbox and a backpack too big for her tiny frame, and Valeria would have uninterrupted study time. Miguel became the grandfather Luce never had, teaching her to plant tomatoes in his yard, letting her help fix things in his garage, slipping her cookies before dinner when he thought no one was looking. He never said much, but his presence was steady as stone. We became a village. That phrase people use without understanding what it really means. We became people who showed up for each other, who called when someone was late, who brought soup when someone was sick, who watched each other's kids and loaned each other money and told hard truths when necessary. We became family, the chosen kind that matters more than blood sometimes. One Saturday afternoon, 3 years after Luce was born, Diego showed up at our apartment nervous in a way I'd never seen, fidgeting, checking his phone, barely able to sit still. "What's wrong with you?" Valeria asked, bouncing Luce on her hip. "You're acting weird." "Nothing. I'm fine. Can we go to the park? Just the 3 of us?" "The park? Diego, I have so much studying. Please. Just for an hour." She looked at me. I shrugged, trying not to smile because I knew exactly what was happening. He'd asked my permission 2 weeks ago, so nervous he could barely get the words out. They left. I watched from the window as they walked down the street, Diego carrying Luce on his shoulders, Valeria laughing at something he said. They looked like any young family on a Saturday afternoon. Normal. Happy. Together. 2 hours later, Valeria burst back through the door, eyes wide, hand shaking. "He proposed," she said, showing me the ring. Small, simple. Probably cost him 3 months of savings. "Mom," he proposed. In the park, in front of everyone. He had this whole speech about how I made him want to be better. How Luce made him understand what love actually means. How he wants to spend the rest of his life proving he's worth us. "And what did you say?" I said yes. Tears streamed down her face. I said yes. "Is that crazy? We're 20 and 19. We have no money. We're both still in school. Is it completely insane?" "Probably," I admitted. "But the sanest decisions don't always make the happiest lives." Diego came in then, carrying Luce, both of them covered in grass stains and smiles. "Did she tell you?" "She told me." "Are you okay with it?" "I should have asked you first, I know, but I wanted to surprise her and—" "Diego, breathe. I'm not just okay with it. I'm happy. For both of you." He set Luce down, and she immediately ran to her toy box, already distracted by the drama of adults. He took Valeria's hand, and they stood there in my living room. 2 kids who'd grown up too fast, who'd made a baby and almost lost everything, who'd clawed their way back from disaster and built something real. "We want to wait," Valeria said, "until I finish my degree, until Diego finishes his apprenticeship, until we're actually stable. But we wanted you to know, wanted everyone to know we're serious. This isn't just playing house." "I know," I said. "I've always known." The years continued to unfold. Slow sometimes, impossibly fast others. Luce started kindergarten in a dress I'd made, navy blue with yellow flowers. Her hair in braids Valeria had learned to do from YouTube videos. She was shy at first, clinging to Valeria's leg, but by the end of the first week, she was running to the classroom, barely remembering to wave goodbye. Valeria graduated with her associate's degree, then, impossibly, got accepted to the state university for her bachelor's. She cried when the acceptance letter came, not sure if she could do it, afford it, manage it all. "You can," I told her. "You've done harder things." Diego finished his apprenticeship, became a licensed electrician, got hired by a good company with benefits, steady hours, decent pay, enough to start saving for a real wedding, for a house someday, for all the things they'd put on hold. They got married on a Saturday in May, 4 years after Luce was born. Small ceremony in Rosa's backyard. Just family and close friends. Valeria wore a dress I'd made. Simple white cotton with lace sleeves. Nothing fancy, but perfect for her. Luz was the flower girl, taking her job incredibly seriously, placing each petal with careful precision. Diego cried during the vows. So did Valeria. So did I, standing off to the side, watching my daughter marry the boy who'd run from her, then run back, then stayed through everything. Miguel walked Valeria down the aisle. When Diego asked who he was, who could speak for Valeria's side, Miguel said simply, her family, all of us, everyone here who loved her through the hard times. It wasn't a fancy wedding. The cake was homemade. The flowers came from Miguel's garden. The music was a playlist on someone's phone connected to a portable speaker. We ate food we'd all cooked together, danced in the grass, and Luz fell asleep at 8 o'clock on a pile of coats in Rosa's bedroom. It was perfect. I think about that night a lot now. The night I found my daughter on the floor, bleeding and terrified, a newborn wrapped in sheets, my whole world exploding and reforming all at once. The night I thought I'd lost everything, the night that changed all of us forever. Because in a way, I did lose everything that night. All my illusions, all my assumptions, all my carefully constructed plans for how life should go. The future I'd imagined for Valeria, for myself, for our little family of 2. It all died in that moment. But I gained something bigger, something truer. I gained the truth. The messy, complicated, beautiful truth about what it means to be human. To fail spectacularly. To hurt people you love. To be hurt by people you trust. To forgive when forgiveness feels impossible. To try again when trying feels pointless. To extend grace when you want to condemn. To see the person behind the mistake. The fear behind the cruelty. The love behind the pain. Diego's mother is still in prison. She'll be there for 5 more years. Her husband divorced her. Her family stopped visiting. Her life unraveled completely. It's tragic in its way. She thought she was solving problems, making everyone's life easier, capitalizing on an opportunity. She didn't see, or chose not to see, the human being at the center of it all. Her granddaughter, a person with infinite value beyond dollar signs. Her son, drowning and desperate for guidance instead of manipulation. Sometimes I wonder if she thinks about Luz, if she regrets what she lost, if she understands, in the quiet of her cell, what she threw away. But I don't know. Some people never see their own mistakes, even when the consequences are living proof. Valeria's in her last year of university now, double majoring in early childhood education and social work because, as she says, I want to catch the families before they break, before the girls feel like they have to hide, before the boys feel like running is their only option. She works part-time at a community center, running support groups for young mothers, helps them navigate the social services system, find childcare, complete their education. She tells them her story, not all of it, not the worst parts, but enough to let them know they're not alone, that shame isn't destiny, that mistakes don't have to be endpoints. I had a girl come in yesterday. She told me last week over coffee. 15, pregnant, terrified. She reminded me so much of myself. It hurt to look at her. What did you tell her? The truth, that it's going to be hard, harder than anything she can imagine, but that she can do it, that people will help if she lets them, that hiding only makes everything worse. Did she believe you? I don't know, but she came back today, so maybe. Diego's doing well, really well. Got promoted to supervisor at his company, manages a crew of younger electricians, makes enough money that they've started looking at houses. Nothing fancy, just small places in okay neighborhoods, but their own, with a yard where Luz can play, with room for the second child they're talking about maybe having in a few years. Not yet, Valeria laughs when people ask. 1 is plenty for now. Ask me again when this one's in high school. Luz is 7 now. Smart as a whip, funny in ways that surprise me, kind in ways that make me cry. She doesn't really understand her origin story yet. Knows she was born early, knows there were complications, knows her parents were young, but not the whole truth. Not yet. That'll come later, when she's old enough to understand complexity, to hold space for the fact that people can make terrible mistakes and still be good parents. For now, she just knows she's loved. Wildly, completely. By more people than most children ever get. Her parents, her grandmother, her great-uncle Miguel, her great-aunt Rosa, her teachers, her friends' parents, the community center staff, an entire village that showed up and stayed. And me? I'm still sewing. Still working too hard, probably, but less frantically than before. I've learned to say no, to prioritize, to understand that some orders aren't worth missing dinner, missing bedtime stories, missing life. My apartment's still too small. The elevator still doesn't work. I still climb those stairs at the end of long days, knees creaking, back aching. But when I reach the top and hear Luz laughing inside, when I open the door and smell whatever Valeria's attempting to cook, when Diego shows up with groceries he insisted on buying even though it's not his turn, that's when I know we're exactly where we're supposed to be. The hard part? It never really ends. There are still nights when Valeria cries because she's overwhelmed by school and parenting and life, times when Diego looks at bills and wonders how they'll cover everything, moments when I lie awake doing math in my head, trying to make money stretch further than physics allows, when Luz has nightmares or gets sick or struggles at school, when the car breaks down or the roof leaks or something else demands money and attention we don't have. But the beautiful part doesn't end either. Luz losing her first tooth and leaving it under her pillow for the tooth fairy, Valeria's straight A's, Diego teaching Luz to ride a bike, running beside her with his hand on the seat, letting go without her realizing, watching her fly, the ordinary magic of people choosing, every single day, to love each other despite everything, because of everything. We're not a perfect family. We're a real one, built from broken pieces and bad decisions, and the stubborn refusal to give up. Built from the understanding that sometimes the people who look like they don't care are just scared out of their minds, that sometimes running away is just a different form of screaming for help, that sometimes the hardest thing and the right thing are exactly the same thing. And mostly, built from this, the decision to show up, to try, to believe that today can be better than yesterday, even if only by the smallest measure. To look at the people we love and see them, really see them, instead of the versions we wish they were or fear they might become. To create space for truth instead of performance. To love imperfectly, but consistently. To forgive without forgetting. To move forward without leaving anyone behind. That's enough. It has to be enough. And miraculously, heartbreakingly, impossibly, it is. If this story touched something in you, if you've ever felt like you failed someone you loved, or if someone's given you a second chance you didn't deserve, or if you're just trying to piece together a life that doesn't look anything like the one you planned, I hope it reminded you that you're not alone in this struggle. We're all stumbling through this, making mistakes that feel unforgivable, letting fear make our decisions, missing signs we should have seen, hurting people we never meant to hurt, trying desperately to do better, be better, make better choices tomorrow than we made yesterday. And sometimes, if we're very lucky and very stubborn, and very willing to see the truth instead of the version that makes us comfortable, we get to build something real from the wreckage, something that couldn't have existed without the breaking, something stronger for having been shattered and glued back together. Share this story if you think someone needs to hear it. Maybe it's another young parent who's terrified and hiding. Maybe it's someone who judged too quickly and needs to remember that everyone's fighting battles we can't see. Maybe it's a parent who missed the signs and is drowning in guilt. Maybe it's just someone who needs to remember that broken things can be beautiful too, that the cracks are where the light gets in, that the worst moment of your life doesn't have to define the rest of it. And if these stories matter to you, if they make you feel less alone in this complicated, messy, wonderful, heartbreaking, miraculous world, subscribe. Join this community of people who understand that life rarely goes according to plan, but that doesn't mean it goes wrong. Because every single day we're sharing stories like this. Real stories. Human stories. The kind that remind us why we keep trying even when everything feels impossible. Some stories deserve to be heard. Some struggles deserve to be seen. Some people like Valeria and Diego, and all of us just trying our best with the tools we have and the knowledge we've gained and the scars we carry, deserve to know they're not invisible, that their pain matters, that their efforts count, that someone sees them trying and believes it's enough. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for making space in your day for this story, for letting these people into your heart, for remembering that behind every mistake is a human being who deserves dignity and a chance. And remember, the story isn't over. Not yours, not mine, not anyone's. As long as we're breathing, as long as we're willing to try, as long as we can look at ourselves honestly and choose to do better, we get to write the next chapter. We get to decide what comes after the worst moment. We get to choose how we rebuild. Make it a good one. Make it honest. Make it full of second chances and hard conversations and love that shows up even when it's inconvenient. Because that's the kind of story worth telling. That's the kind of life worth living.